All right, welcome back. It is the latest installment of the 20s in my 20s vlog. Howdy, Zeus. I'm saying howdy because we're still in Texas. A lot of thinking has gone on, a lot of development, a lot of planning, that sort of stuff over the last few weeks, or probably like a couple of months now or so, since the last video that I recorded. Obviously, I got a much better setup for my phone now. I have an actual like tripod thing for it that my mom got me. Not even for like birthday or Christmas. She just kind of surprised me with this thing because she like saw it and thought I would make good use of it. And was like, here you go. So that was really cool. And I'm not going to show you because I'm using it right now, but maybe one day. So, I kind of fly by the seat of my pants with these vlog things, so I'm not going to, I keep looking at like the screen and not like the camera, so sorry about that. But anyway, I have no idea what I said or what was going on in the last video. I'm pretty sure I was at my parents' house the last time that I recorded one of these things. Matter of fact, I can look it up real quick because I am sitting here at my desk at my computer right now. We'll go to Zeth. Eventually, one day I'll have like an editor, or when I'm actually working, I'll have some money. I'll just kind of upload these videos and I'll pay somebody to do the thing for me, like make it all fancy and whatnot, so you can like see my screen when I'm doing stuff. Anyway. I'm pretty sure in the last video I was talking about the plan to basically go to Puerto Rico after I get done here in Texas, done with school. That plan has been modified a tiny bit. Considering a lot of different factors, it seems that Costa Rica is probably the better spot for me to sort of set up shop at. Rugby is a lot more developed in Costa Rica. There's like, they have like a national team. They're part of the World Rugby circuit and everything. And they play rugby union. They don't play rugby league. Versus in Puerto Rico, they play rugby league. Puerto Rico like just got their first national team like put together, I guess. And it's a league team too. So like league is worldwide is much less of a thing than rugby union is. And rugby in Puerto Rico is not nearly as much of a thing as it is in like Costa Rica, or even like Nicaragua, Panama, Guatemala, the whole Central America, the rest of Latin America basically, with the exception of the Caribbean. So for as far as me just playing rugby long term, it seems like a great place for that. I'm kind of assuming there's some jiu-jitsu there too. So there's that. One of the attractions with Puerto Rico is that I'm a U.S. citizen, and that simplifies a lot of things in terms of like moving there, buying land eventually, and that sort of thing. But it turns out that that's not any more complicated in a country like Costa Rica, or in Costa Rica specifically. So foreigners basically, with just a few caveats that don't really matter to me, have the same property ownership rights that Costa Rican citizens have. Also, there is the fact that Costa Rica is part of the same landmass as North America, albeit thousands of miles from here. But that basically means that I could drive down there instead of having to fly. I've got the booger with me, right? He's never flown in a plane before, so I doubt. He would handle it fine, but it would just be, it'd mostly be a hassle, especially with immigration and everything. Just like getting him on the plane, I would have to probably get him set up as like an ESA, so he could fly with me instead of like in the cabin, and all that. And it's just, flying with a dog is, not ideal. Driving with one, however, is just fine. Do it all the time. Crossing borders with a dog, from what I've researched so far, is pretty straightforward. As long as you have your paper, and it goes for like yourself and your vehicle as well. As long as you have your paperwork and everything in order, you're not doing anything shady, like they just kind of like, wave you on through. The only problem with the drive is there's one country that requires that you get a vaccine, in addition to showing like a negative COVID test, a COVID vaccine. Every other country, if you don't have a vaccine, you just have to show them a negative test and they'll let you through. Guatemala requires that you have both a vaccine and a negative test, which is kind of weird to me. But they didn't ask my opinion, obviously. If I can avoid that, I would like to. I just the vaccine probably works and whatnot, but I just don't like how it's the more anybody tries to make me do something, the more I don't want to do it, just kind of out of principle. But at the same time, like if I was going to go to like say Africa, which I would like to like one day, there's a whole litany of vaccines I would have to get to go to Africa. So I have a hard time like figuring out how the COVID vaccine is any different from malaria vaccine or whatever. So for the sake of like crossing borders into other nations, like I'm a little bit more like okay with it. But I would like to, because they also like it matters also how recent the vaccine was that you got, and so like that's a whole like that adds another element to like the timing and organization of this whole thing. It's just I would rather just keep like a test kit with me in the car and use it whenever I need to and cross the border. So you can't drive from here to Costa Rica without driving through Guatemala unless you get a ferry. However, I haven't been able to find any ferries online that will ferry my vehicle over. However, I've seen a lot of like YouTube videos and read blogs and stuff where people will find a local that has like just a large enough boat, and you pay them cash and they ferry your boat over. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get down as far as Belize, and then see if I can find someone to ferry my car over to Honduras, and just like never go to Guatemala at all. Which Guatemala and El Salvador are pretty sketchy these days, so I don't like necessarily have any interest in visiting those countries to begin with. I'm sure they're beautiful and great people, but there's a lot of organized crime there. Petty theft is kind of something you have to watch out for everywhere, and as long as you just like don't let your car out of sight and like that sort of thing, like you're pretty fine. But organized crime is pretty rampant in El Salvador and Guatemala and like Chiapas, Mexico. So I would rather just like avoid that entirely, at least until once I'm like been living in Costa Rica for a while and I like walk and talk and act like I am from Central America. It'll probably be a little bit I'll be less of a, what's the word I'm looking for, I won't stick out as much as a potential mark, so to speak. But that initial trip down there, if I can avoid Guatemala and El Salvador entirely, that's probably best. So anyway, like the plan is that I'll finish Flatiron School in like May, and then my lease here, this apartment is good until July. So I'll just work with the guy I'm working with right now and through July, save up a little bit of money. I probably need about $2,000, $2,500 if I want to eat out a little bit more, to make the trip, because I want to do it over like 30 days. So I could do it cheaper if I did it quicker, but I want to take my time getting down there for like the sake of the adventure, right? So about a month's worth of living expenses is what it's going to cost. So like on the high end, like $3,000, which if I can get that money together, that'd be great, because it would be awesome to have the money to spend on like cool boat tours or like just whatever kind of like really like food. That's what really interests me with like cultures, like the different kind of foods they eat and stuff. So there's that. But yeah, so broad plan: finish Flatiron School, keep working with Eric doing the outdoor flooring stuff for the remainder of my lease here. When my lease is up, go back to my parents, stay there for like probably like a month or two, and do like the job search, right? Like start like interviewing and looking for jobs and whatnot. Ideally, I'll get a job offer, and part of like the arrangement be that the job won't begin until once I'm in Costa Rica. So let's say I get a job offer and I can negotiate for them to start me in like, you know, November 1st, right? Then I would leave Texas on October 1st. So that would give me 30 days to get to Costa Rica. And then I would already have like an Airbnb bought and paid for once I get there. So I'd have my living arrangements for a month set up, and during that month I would, you know, find a more permanent like apartment sort of situation. I really want to buy some land. And that was part of the thing with with Puerto Rico, is that I can apply for an FHA or USDA loan and pay zero down and buy some real estate. So as long as you have the credit and the income, they'll let you do zero down. On a USDA loan, FHA loans similar, it's just a tiny down payment. Costa Rica, that's not really an option because it has nothing to do with the US government. So I'm gonna have to rent for a while, a lot longer than I would have to in Puerto Rico. All the other kind of like living situation things considered, it's, you know, it's fine, it's worth it. But like 6 months to a year will be about enough time, I think. I've kind of crunched the numbers. To save up a down payment, you need 15% at minimum to 20% to buy property in Costa Rica. 15 to 20% of the total value of the property as a down payment. So scrape together a down payment and then get a property. I'd like to get somewhere like rural, kind of out in the country, or, you know, do like some homesteading type of thing, like, you know, get like a beehive going, a solar panel, like that sort of thing. To learn those things like water filtration, to learn that sort of stuff, how to like work on those systems for the sailboat, right? So this time next year, basically, or like, you know, roughly, I should be looking at properties, maybe not close the deal yet, but looking at properties. And then another like year or two after that, I should have, you know, saved up enough money again to get the boat. And by then I'll have 2 years of experience working with like the solar panels and water filtration and collection, even just simple plumbing, electricity, that sort of stuff. And that'll give me a lot of the skills and know-how that I need to do what I want to do with the boat. Because I want to, you know, get like a real junker boat and like rebuild it from the ground up type of thing. Getting some land out rurally also, like, would, you know, I could buy like a real beater boat and just keep it on stilts, like on my own property, instead of having to pay for it to stay in a dry yard and drive to the dry yard every time I want to work on it. Also, it seems like getting a property that would satisfy those factors is a lot more feasible and affordable in Costa Rica than in Puerto Rico. The only advantage Puerto Rico has over Costa Rica is that I have the same access to the financial aids, like the USDA, FHA loans type stuff, and I don't have that in Costa Rica. That's the only advantage Puerto Rico really has at this point, that I've detected. But yeah, so I'm living here in San Marcos still. I'm in Flatiron School. That's going well. It's going slowly, but it's going well. We've got the state tournament for rugby coming up soon. I was gonna start this last game, and then the other school canceled on us, and so that was a bummer. I was gonna start for the first time, and then the game canceled. So, oh well. Yeah, and so I'll be here in San Marcos through the end of July probably, and then I'll be in East Texas for a few months, maybe till the end of the year. It really kind of depends on what the job search, how that pans out. And then after that, it's Costa Rican bound. So I need to get $2,000 to $3,000 together for like the trip itself for Costa Rica. I think my vehicle can make it. I know my vehicle can make it right now as is. However, I would like to do a few things to it before I go. Some improvements. Replace the stereo, because the stereo just doesn't work right now, and that doesn't have anything to do with its ability to make that journey. But I'd like to have some music along the way. It is like if you just book it, it's like 9 days minimum. So that's a long time to drive without any music. I would like to get kind of like a rack and some jerry cans so I could keep some extra fuel on me, because fuel does get pretty scarce once you get past Mexico, basically. And some new tires. And if I can afford it, get a lift kit or at least a leveling kit on the FJ, just to increase, like, because it's like just like a truck, the nose is like a little bit lower. So if I could level that out and just get a little extra clearance there, and you know, get some like nice, some better like all-terrain tires on there right now, or on there, different from the ones that are on there right now. Yeah, so like the stereo, the tires, level it out, and the bumpers, the front and the back end, it's just plastic. It looks like complete shit right now. So besides the fact that it's ugly, it's also plastic. You can poke it with a knife, practically. And so it would be nice to get something a little bit more durable, because some of the highways in Central America are still dirt roads. So the FJ is a heck of a vehicle. It can make it right now as is, but it would just make things a little nicer if I could do. So that'll probably be another like $1,500 that I'll have to get together somehow. The more I get into this whole thing, the more like real it becomes, like in the sense that like I get it like the price tag just keeps going up and up and up, but the payoff keeps going up and up and up too, and so it's really just, at this point, it's like a timing thing. And it's also the flat iron. I've been struggling a little bit with like motivation, just sitting down and getting things done with flat iron lately. And so, but man, like once I get done with flat iron, then I can get a job full time, and I'm just gonna have to stick to my guns and just count on getting a remote job. It won't be necessarily smooth sailing from there, but it'll be a whole different kind of adventure. Up until now, it's just been like this tedious, just getting by like from one week to the next, one school assignment like to the next. Once I finish flat iron, man, I'm gonna have like a lot more time and money to do all these cool things I want to do with. Speaking of working remotely, like it's possible that I could get a remote job and then do the journey to Costa Rica while I'm working. But frankly, like I would like to just focus on the journey, you know? So that's what I said earlier. I would like to get an arrangement with an employer, like my first day of work to be after I'm already like arrived in Costa Rica, and I can plan my trip around what date the employer wants me to start, right? Yeah, I would just, man, I see myself just like me, Zeus in the passenger seat, and it's just like, just rolling like hills and dirt roads and, you know, big green jungles and everything everywhere, and I'm eating like, you know, weird food at the locals, and you're just out there like having a big old adventure. Man, I don't know, just like, that's the other thing with Costa Rica, is the thought of like driving there, like journeying there under my own like power, right? Just excites me so much more than just taking a plane to Costa Rica or to Puerto Rico does. So yeah, that's the plan. And I know I was like really set on like Puerto Rico's it, but Costa Rica is it. You know, like there's just everything kind of lines up for Costa Rica. There's, you know, advantages to like Mexico even, but like being a U.S. citizen and not a Mexican citizen makes that a lot more complicated in terms of like buying property. Puerto Rico, like the social climate, I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but like the social climate in Puerto Rico, there's a lot of like native Puerto Ricans that are really not stoked about Americans like me moving out there. And mainly that's because you get people who like will like buy their homes that they've been living in for like, you know, decades maybe, and they buy the building and kick them out and turn it into Airbnb, that sort of stuff, which isn't necessarily what I would be doing, but I know that people aren't necessarily going to see that. They're going to see like some white American guy coming in, and like that wouldn't matter if it weren't for that. I want to go somewhere to become part of like a different culture and get that whole like cultural experience and immersion and everything. So I don't want to move somewhere where I'm just like gonna kind of get corralled back in with the other Americans, like just like that, you know what I mean? So just like everything, like Costa Rica provides everything that Puerto Rico does for me, but just like a little better. And it's a great place to kind of kick off the whole sailing adventure, because you know you have like the Americas, right, and then Europe, Africa, Asia, and Costa Rica's like right here. You got oceans like on all sides, and so you can just take off like in any direction. So if I could get like buy a property and set that up, you know, to where it's like sustainable, and I could like Airbnb it when I'm gone type of thing, then I could take off for 6, 7, 8 months, you know, sail around Asia, come back, hang out in Costa Rica for a few months, and then take back off again to Europe or Africa, wherever I want to go. So I just like, that seems like it's gonna prolong the timeline for me getting on the boat full time a little bit, but I think it's also going to make that a lot more sustainable once it happens, and it'll give me a lot of peace of mind knowing that I have like my own little kind of castle, so to speak, or safe house that I can always go back and like retreat back to. So yeah, living in San Marcos still. I'll be out of here in July, then I'll go to East Texas, and then I'll drive down to Costa Rica. I'll be done with Flatiron School before I move out of here, and I should have a job lined up before I'm on my way to Costa Rica. So yeah, that's it. It apparently wasn't that long since the last 20s in my 20s episode, because it says right here 3 weeks ago. So I guess I'm getting better at being a little bit more consistent. Every other one was months and months and months ago. So anyway, this is also, I think, now the longest 20s in my 20s vlog that I've done. But that's okay. This is more for my own documentation. It is for, I'm not trying to make a cool YouTube channel. I just want to, I don't know, I want like my kids and nieces and nephews or whatever to like be able to like go back and look at this when they're like 18 and they're about to like set off into the world on their adventure. I want them to like find these videos and, you know, just as a kind of like thought diary of me going through that whole coming of age experience. So yeah, if it's 25-minute video, fuck it. So anyway, that is everything I have for this video today. Yeah, until next time.